Straight boys, fast cars, killjoys, sports bars. Grown men, old world, children for straight girls. Straight boys, they lie, big talk, short ride. Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Truck stop, black tie, on top. Why can't I? Why can't I? Why can't I? Why? Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Why can't I? Why? Why can't I be friends? Sweatshirt, mall rat, backwards, ball cap. Heyday, cocaine, then rosé and Rogaine. New wife, trophy, midlife, goatee. Why? Why can't I? Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Why can't I? Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Straight boys, hooligans, and then old men. The boy's straight, he don't bend till we break up again. Why? Why can't I? Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Why can't I? Why can't I? Why can't I? Why can't I be friends with a straight boy? Why can't I? The night is real and cold and late and full of sound. I kiss the feel of hands on me now. How I miss the weight of a man to hold me down. The weight of a man to make me count. The weight of a man. The story's real, the stars heavy. The memories hang around. You pull me, I hold my ground. My load is light, I'm moving at the speed of time. I'd rather I be loved than be right. How I miss the weight of a man to hold me down, the weight of a man to make me count away. Away. It's you and me, we got a thing. It's you and me, we got a thing. From now on, we got a thing. And nothing will go wrong. Nothing will go wrong. Nothing will go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. On behalf of Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, I'd like to welcome you all to the Wanda Coleman Theater. And for tonight's reading featuring David St. John, Holaday Mason, and Judith Pacht, we are celebrating her latest Precarious, new and selected poems published by Giant Claw. Let's give it up for all of them tonight. My name is Jimmy Vega. I am the interim executive director of Beyond Baroque. I'd like to start by acknowledging Beyond Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent disposition of their land. And as an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous communities, their stories, and cultures. Now, for those who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles' oldest literary arts center, located here in Venice, California. Founded in 1968 by George Drury Smith, first as an experimental literary magazine before reimagining itself and becoming the literary home we know it as today. We support writers, and we do that in a number of ways, through our reading series, of course, our performance series, and through our workshops. As many of you know, we offer weekly workshops in fiction on Monday nights, and our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop continues to run with a new facilitator right now, Martin Yago. And so we host about 100 programs a year in this space. We just kind of recently crunched the numbers for this year, and it's about 100. And similarly, about 100 workshops as well here. And we can't do that without your support. So if you are a Beyond Baroque member, I greatly, greatly, greatly thank you, appreciate your support. And if you're not, I highly encourage you to inquire in the bookstore, become a member, pick up Judith's new book, pick up all of our authors' books. I'm sure that they would love to talk to you and get a signature from them as well. And so that's really all for me tonight. Want to give a big shout out and big thanks and gratitude to Eric Alberg running light and sound for us in the booth. Thank you, Eric. Genesis Perez, Anika Duenas in the bookstore holding it down. And yeah, thank you all for being here. This is after tonight. We only have 2 more programs of the year here at Beyond Baroque. And so we're kind of slowly winding down. And tonight's program is really special in that it includes a lot of familiar friends, especially over the years. So it feels good to be hosting Judith, David, and Holaday this December. And without further ado, let's make some noise for David St. John.
So we asked to keep the lights up. As you know, usually the lights are down, so we can't see the audience. But we're keeping our eyes on you tonight. We want you to know, I thought we should tell you. And it's such a great pleasure for me to be here tonight and to be able to read with such good friends. And many of you here have been part of the poetry community in Venice, Los Angeles, Ventura, Topanga, that it feels like family. And I was thinking we're so near Thanksgiving, and for me to be in a space like this, and again, of course, big thanks to Jimmy and Beyond Baroque, because this place has been sort of an amazing clubhouse. And I just want to say, because Jimmy didn't, I want to encourage you to become a member if you're not a member already, because it's very, very important, especially now in the climate that we're in. What we're going to do is I'm going to introduce Holaday, and then I will read after Holaday, and then introduce Judith, so we can celebrate this amazing new book of hers. But I want to start by celebrating this amazing recent book of Holadays. And it is also, it's been manifested in the world by Giant Claw also. So we need a lot of love for them because they're here tonight. I was thinking when I was thinking about how the kind of thanks that I feel for the people in this room and the people who are the extended part of this community, it seemed, especially the moment we're in, when so much of what we have spent our lives trusting and believing in terms of what helps to make us feel human and present and alive in this world, is in the deepest of jeopardy. And of course, I don't think anyone in this room suspected that we would be at this moment and be feeling the things we've been feeling in this past year. And I say this because I never quote other poets, especially famous poets. It's just too intimidating. But I am tonight. And one of the things that I thought was of Shelley's great quote in A Defense of Poetry, where he says that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. And what he means, of course, is nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with that kinds of legislature, but everything to do. Jim, Celeste, come in, come in. I mean, when your heroes come in, I mean, you got to invite them in, so, yeah. And what Shelley means by this phrase is very much about the imagination, and that it's the poets who create ways of imagining a world and a future. Not only the world as it is, but a world as it might be. And I think that he later said, of course, he meant philosophers as well, but I mean all artists. I think all of art and artists make possible the future because they introduce us to ways of seeing or experiencing the world that are often unfamiliar to us and that we don't know that we need and yet do need in the future that comes. I think that the other sort of person of stature who I'll quote is Wallace Stevens, who said, "The poet is the priest of the invisible." And I think that that's important too, because so much of our lives are calibrated to getting things done. We've become victims of some idea of progress that forgets that we should think of human progress. And for Stevens, again, the great poet of the imagination. So one of the things that in thinking about Holiday's work and thinking about Judith's work, I've been thinking in these last couple of weeks about the force and the power of the imagination to bring us in language, in poems, their experiences, but also their feelings, and the feelings that are made manifest and embodied. And the word I like to use is enacted in language in these poems. And it's important to remember, at least I think, that art, that paintings, that poems, that songs, they're not objects. They're experiences. And it's experiencing art where we experience and absorb someone else's sensibility, the way in which they not just see the world, but hold the world. And they hold it then for us in their songs, in dance. And so if we begin to see the ways in which all of these are being eroded, then we need to remember that we need to do what we need to do to make sure that our children don't forget. Because right now, with the advent of, I teach at a university, that, is the way in which, I have nothing against artificial intelligence, he lied, except that I really love human intelligence. And I love that, I love what we bring to each other. So when I was thinking about Holiday's book, this new book, As If Scattered, I realized, I started looking back at her earlier books and started looking back at The Red Bowl, wonderful book, The Red Bowl, a fable in poems. And many of you know, many of you recorded, I think, some of these poems. And also then the book, The Weaver's Body, extraordinary book. And I'm sure they're out in the bookstore. And also the she sequence, the conversation in poetry with Sarah Maclay. And one of the things that I felt so powerfully was that Holaday comes to a new book with a vision. It's an artistic vision. She has a sense of how she wants to make an experience for the reader and for the listener. And I think that I just began to think back at the kind of wisdom in these books, the kind of generosity in these books, and the kind of beauty, the simple beauty of the writing. This book is really fascinating to me because the poems actually happen in pairs. And some people have a sense of when poets do what they call erasures, they use a text that then they remove some of the text, and what's left then is the other poem, a second poem. And Holaday can talk more about this, but after thinking about that conceptually, she actually inverts it, so that when you read the poems, you read the poem that is the, quote, erasure before you read the full body of the poem. And they're en face in the book. And the reason this is so stunning to me is that you see the shorter, briefer, lineated poems, and I began to think, how can I describe what the experience is like? And for me, it's like when I read the poem on the left, the product of what the full poem has been, it's like seeing the stars in the sky before you see the constellation. And the one that, occurred to me, it was like, what it gave is it gave the two poems together this sense of dimensionality and perspective. I mean, because we have two eyes, we see what creates perspective. And these two poems are dialogic in the way that her conversation with Sarah was dialogic. Except here the poet is both speaking to and critiquing themselves. So, please welcome Holaday Mason.
I can sit down now. You're going to make me cry, really. I don't have a lot more to say, except it's such an honor to read with Judith. This is a beautiful, elegant, calibrated, beautiful book. And to read with David, who means so much to so many of us. And that's a hell of an introduction. I am going to read some of those new poems, but I'm going to start with the first poem in the first book that I ever published. And I was looking at it to read, and I went, well, I think I'm going to cut that last line. I'll read the last line. I'll take votes, not by email. So this book was published in 2007, and this poem is called Reciting the Water. Distracted by so many birds careening around in the rain, I pull over under a row of thrashing trees. Packs of sodden crows cluster along the telephone lines. Squares of electric light fall from a home nearby where a mother sings to her child who already knows what's coming, so cries and cries. This is the opera, thunder, water. The damp spice of crushed eucalyptus reminds me of other highways, owls blacking the hoops of my headlights, a girlfriend traveling home for Christmas, one glance, lipstick, purse, rear view mirror, then her car splintering a quarter mile of trees. The burned soot of the fields after harvest, but memory is mutable. Stop, lift your eyes. What exactly do you see? The image of a woman's house shattering in a puddle, reflection, distortion, then gone. The faces of everyone I've ever loved slip into and from me, impossible as holding on to water. The child in the house is quiet. The sky is a ship of silver. The birds grow large as they dry. Soon they'll go. I might have been anyone. Okay, babe. She's the editor. Okay, now this is a... Thank you. I needed that. Sometimes I get tangled in the spiderweb of my own doing. This poem is a brand new poem. I'm going to read two brand new poems that somebody took, so I thought, okay, they're good enough. I'll read them. This is a kind of unruly anaphora, which means that there's a repetition, which might formally be at the beginning of the line. It's not. And the poem is called Milagro. And a milagro, I'm sure everybody knows, is a little charm that is made by way of a prayer or a wish. And very frequently you'll find them pounded into a shape like a hand or a heart or a cross. And I better get some water because I am dry. And it's not January. Okay. Milagro. I am a wing, clavicle, harpsichord, fling of jasmine. I am a leg crooked at an impossible angle. I am pounded and lost, but familiar with angels. I am a cherry of blood, a flicker in the corner of your eye. I am the friend who was told by a friend not to drink. I am the pair of scissors that cuts my own hair, the burning wick, the scissors snip low. I'm the coins I stole from my mother's purse. I am my mother's lips and the only words she has left. I am the outline of her wrinkled left hand drawn with a number 2 pencil around the shape of my right hand. I am a ring of emerald chips signifying independence, then buried in mud. I'm the rider of the horse and the horse that's wandered too far north to turn back. I am clean sheets flying off a line in the updraft of a brief lightning storm. The bird calls in the original forest akin to a rhyme, fervently shrill, sometimes a lullaby. I am a daughter who lay with a mother in her final bed, watching a cartoon film of the Buddha's life. I am all 4 maras: greed, sloth, envy, lust. I am night, dressed up in night, and I like it. I'm the expert in the story of lost keys. I'm a single object pounded into inexpensive metal. I'm not fond of the full moon. Its many knives. I am ready to be left in a chapel of sand, prayer, rusty crutches. I will always be wild, a garden of thorns, roots, untidy blades of grass. I am every uncertain bloom of summer. I am the petals as they fall. And this poem is called Balsamic Phase, which it refers to a phase of the moon, but the waning stage of things. And because of a mini conversation I had with Lynn, it goes to Lynn tonight. Balsamic Phase. I smell heat, a creak of floorboard. Oh, it's also a bit got Karen Kevorkian in my ear here. Balsamic Phase. I smell heat, a creak of floorboard, a loose nail, no, the dog's 2 long nails. The minute hand clicks. I have a preference for battery run clocks. I chose not to have children, lie alone breathing. Thought I wouldn't do so well, was likely right. Yes, there now, there's that screaming owl. What was that lost word? No need to have children. There are so many of us, and so many lost words, but I never forgot the metallic scent of water gushed from a hot summer hose, the pools of water on the grass, how we would run and slide. I only saw fireflies once as a small child in the Midwest when there were no fences between lawns. No one had one. Perhaps that sound is a raccoon or 2 come inside through the open back door. Let them come in. Let them eat. And then I'll read a few poems from the new collection, also on Giant Claw. We are so grateful for Wet Books and Giant Claw, who brings out stuff that, it's not going to be so easy in the zeitgeist. So here we go. If I can remember the page number, there it is. This is a little bit sounds, I have Ralph Angel in my ear when I'm writing this poem. So it's after Ralph Angel. It's called Tiptoeing. Oh, and it concerns my red lipstick, but you'll find that out. Tiptoeing. When you lay your head between my breasts, you're always whistling, seeing only rosy mountains. Sometimes it's just a matter of momentum skirting what can't bear close examination. Midsummer is behind us, a leaping wild fox. Go ahead and holler off key. My red lipstick dispels a lot. I too pray not to panic at the moment of death. We align ourselves with both horizons. 2 jeweled birds who whip a filthy puddle into rainbow pinwheels. Come close to me, my love, close as you can. When you get here, I will make you something nice. And then the little informal erasure, which I'm reading second, probably for lack of courage. Thank you, David. You gave me courage. Between both horizons, affection sees only my red lipstick. I think I'm going to read, I think I'll read 2 more pieces from this book, and then the inimitable David St. John will bring us joy, really. Actually, I think I'll read it the other way around. Thanks, David. The coastal mists from the underworld fling themselves over the rooftops. I have to say, there's lines in here that came from a note that Marcia de la O. We have luminaries in the crowd here. So the title comes from the note, and then there's another line in here, which you'll hear the language. It's hers, not mine. The title is A Wounded God Dressed in Brocade. After 3 days, we entered the coastal mists, hunting wild poppies, lupin, fiddleneck, with their sturdy rooster crowns crooked as if courting mysteries from the underworld. And yes, maybe some seeds drown in rain so dense, even city birds had been too sodden to throw themselves from the rooftops. And yes, someone got sick, but not too badly. Someone got drunk, but was driven safely home. Some left handwritten notes on simple moments. He was a self, a stag, magnificent and vulnerable. Later, there was a thought to make love unseen under the drooping skirts of the saturated old oak chartreuse with brightened growth where we could fold a timeline of years into a small book of burnished mementos, each begging to be touched one last time before being mulched into a cavalcade of bells, 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 bells. Weddings are just like that, the way we call to each other, the way we are answered. And I have changed my mind, and I'm going to read one poem from the first book to close here. When I prepare for a reading, I'm always nervous, anxious, critical, self-critical. And this poem calms me down because of the way it sounds. So I'm reading it at the end here instead of the beginning. I always want to start with it. And it's called Wolves Drawn Toward the Sound of Bells. Many bells tonight. Wolves drawn to the sound of bells. At a minimum, there is snow, smooth as the heel of a woman's hand. Then the snake trails of a sleigh marking a passage. I wonder were there stars, and if any fell. Or was it one of those dawns when the clouds of breath, they're so stunning and pale, you can't look up into heaven because the problem of beauty is too immense, the air growing cold as the dew of your lungs is spun into an iridescent web clinging to the light, so fragile as it disappears. You must turn back toward each other, wanting only to feel the damp fleece near your cheeks, that familiar hand holding your own. It is still night after all, and all around the sleigh, the dark ring of the woods. Here comes David. How could anybody introduce David? There's no words.
God, that was gorgeous. Man. It's such a pleasure because I love the music of Holiday's poems, as I love the music of Judith's. And I feel, so fortunate to have been really part of this group for so long. And, to have my friends Chuck and Gail here and to see what they've done to make this community what it is extraordinary. So I'm going to read just one poem. You had a bet? A bet about how many poems. Okay. We both lost. Who would like to win? I'll change it. But there's a reason. And the reason is on January 1st, it will be the 50th anniversary of the publication of my first book. And it was a book that I'd first, just a little history, I'd given the book to a friend, the poet Tom Lux, to publish in his small press series. It was called Barn Dream Press. And he had gotten from the NEA a $20,000 matching grant to publish 4 books. And Linda Orr, Michael Burkhardt, Ray Amorosi, a Boston friend. And I was going from Iowa, where I'd been living, to start a job at Oberlin College. And I hadn't heard from Tom over the summer. And so I remember it was October, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just call Tom. I called him, and I said, "Hi, how you doing? What's up?" And he said, "Well, I have bad news." I said, "Well?" And he said, "My partner in the press spent the $20,000 on furniture for his loft." And I said, "Well, good to know." No, Tom was a great guy. And I had, about 6 months earlier, I'd had a request from Jonathan Galassi, who is beginning a new series at Houghton Mifflin. And he asked me if I had a manuscript of poems. And I said, I just gave it to somebody else. I gave it to Tom Lux. And I said, "But thank you. That's great." And John said, "That's great. I know Tom. He's a great guy." In fact, in this series, Tom's book was the second of the series. This book ended up being the first. And the way that happened is, as soon as I hung up the phone with Tom, I called John Galassi. And he said, I told him what had happened. And there was this long silence, because I said, "Should I send you the manuscript?" And it was actually a short manuscript because of the format of Barn Dream Press. I said, "I'll add some other poems." And there was this long silence. I thought, did we get disconnected? Was it? And then he said, "Yes, send me the manuscript." And I did, and he ended up taking the book. And it was interesting because then when I sent him the final manuscript, it ended up being stolen. And it was stolen because it was in a mail pouch on a loading dock in New Jersey. And all of the mail that was on that dock was loaded into a truck and driven away. And he called and said, "Do you have another copy?" And I said, "Yes." The poem that I'm going to read is the centerpiece of the book. The poem is called Slow Dance, and originally it was called Slow Dance. And then I discovered the Irish poet John Montague had a book coming out called A Slow Dance. And so it's the poem Hush, a poem for my son, and that became the title poem. But this is Slow Dance. It's, you'll see the opening, the whole first kind of part of the poem. It's sort of infatuated with the late 19th century, especially Anna Karenina and Tolstoy. And you'll see that happening. And the movement is meant to be a sequence of dances. Slow dance. It's like the riddle Tolstoy put to his son, pacing off the long fields deepening in ice, or the little song of Anna's heels knocking through the cold ballroom. It's the relief a rain enters in a diary left open under the sky. The night releases its stars, and the birds the new morning. It is an act of grace and disgust, a gesture of light, the lamp turned low in the window, the harvest fire across the far warp of the land. The somber cadence of boots returns. A village pocked with soldiers, the dishes rattling in the cupboard as an old serving woman carries a huge silver spoon into the room, and she polishes as she holds it just so in the light. The fat of her jowls goes taut in the reflection. It's what shapes the sag of those cheeks, and has nothing to do with death, though it is as simple and insistent, like a coat too tight at the shoulders, or a bedroom weary of its single guest. At last, a body is spent by sleep, a dream stealing the arms, the legs, a lover who has left you walking constantly away. Beyond that stand of bare autumnal trees, vague and loose. Yet it's only the dirt that consoles the root. You must begin again to move towards the icy sill. A small girl behind a hedge of snow, working a stick puppet so furiously the passers-by bump into one another, watching the stiff arms fling out to either side, the nervous goose step, the dances going on and on, though the girl is growing cold in her thin coat and silver leotard. She lays her cheek to the frozen bank and lets the puppet sprawl upon her across her face, and a single man is left twirling very slowly, until the street is empty of everything but snow, the snow falling, the puppet, that girl. You close the window, and for the night's affair, slip on the gloves sewn of the delicate hides of mice. They are like the redemption of a drastic weather. Your boat put out too soon to sea, come back. Like the last testimony and trace of desire, or how your blouse considers your breasts, how your lips preface your tongue, and how a man assigns a silence to his words. We know lovers who quarrel at a party, stay in the cool trajectory of the other's glance, spinning through pockets of conversation, sliding in and out of the little gaps between us all until they brush or stand at last back to back and the one hooks an ankle around the other's foot. Even the woman undressing to music on a stage and the man going home the longest way after a night of drinking, remember the brave lyric of a heel in tow, as we remember the young acolyte tipping the flame to the farthest candle and turning to the congregation, twirling his gold and white satin skirts so that everyone can see his woolen socks and rough shoes thick as the hunter's boots that disappear and rise again in the tall rice of the marsh. The dogs, the heavy musk of duck, how the leaves introduce us to the tree, how the tree signals the season, and we begin once more to move, place to place, hand to smoother and more lovely hand, a slow dance to get along. You toss your corsage onto the waters turning under the fountain and walk back to the haze of men and women, the lazy amber and pink lanterns, where you will wait for nothing more than the slight gesture of a hand asking for this slow dance and another thick and breathless night. Yet you want none of it, only to return to the countryside. The fields and long grasses, the scent of your son's hair and his face against your side as the cattle knock against the walls of the barn, like the awkward dancers. In this room you must leave, knowing the leaving as the casual and careful betrayal of what comes too easily, but not without its cost, like an old white wine out of its bottle, or the pages sliding from a worn hymnal. At home, you walk with your son under your arm, asking of his day and how it went, and he begins the story, how he balanced on the sheer hem of a rock to pick that shock of aster nodding in the vase in the hall. You pull him closer and turn your back to any other life. You want only the peace of walking in the first light of morning, as the petals of ice bunch one upon another at the lip of the iron pump. And soon, a whole blossom hangs above the trough, a crowd of children teasing it with sticks against the pale neck until the pale neck snaps and flakes spray everyone. And everyone simply dances away. So that was fun. I enjoyed it. So thank you for. So I wanted to do something to commemorate that space of 50 years, and to think of myself during those years before the book came out, and what it was like to write with both a kind of freedom and a kind of innocence, too. And now, I want to quote one more person, and it's something my father used to say, but the person who I believe is credited with saying it is a man, I think his name was David A. Brooke, who was the president of the King's College in New York. And it's simply that there is no substitute for character. You can buy brains, but you can't buy character. And I think my experience over all of the years of knowing Judith's poems has been to experience a sensibility, a mind, a compassion, a curiosity, a devotion to those things that I consider right and good, and also a faith in art, a faith in what art can do. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to say that at the beginning, is that I've known few people with such a core of determination, not only to find those things in the world and in her own experience, but to devote this energy and attention and the power of her own sensibility to finding language for those things and helping us then to read the poems, to share the language. And if it's one of the things, again, that I think poets do, and that's to help us understand how to say the things that are unsayable, and how to find kinds of matrices of language, and finally to share in a human music, because poems are the music of the mind joined to the music of the heart. And throughout all of Judith's poems, there's a kind of recognition and a kind of hunger for a formal understanding, by which I mean a way that the uncontainable can be held in the shape of a poem. And that's been amazing, because if you look at the selected part of Precarious, which is a new and selected poems, you'll find that the poems in the selected from Summer Hunger and Infirmary for a Private Soul and from her chapbook of haiku, they're not separated and held in each of those books the way selected poems often do. Judith arranged them so that they would form a conversation of concerns and hopes across time and desires across time. So I think it's one of the most brilliant arrangements of a selected poems that I know. And in the new poem section, there's a kind of distillation, the way in which we talk about clarifying butter, let's say. There's a kind of beauty, distillation, and immediacy to these new poems that is not only riveting, but disarming. And consistently, I know many of you have read this book, and it's disarming in a way that the poems allow us to be surprised, and be surprised by a reflection, an understanding, a recognition of one individual in this world. And for me, that's always what the greatest art does. And so let's celebrate this amazing book, Precarious.
Wow. How can I read a poem after that? I just said to David, could I put that under my pillow? It's really beautiful. It's so good to see you all here, and to see you all here. We have light. That's wonderful. Jimmy, thank you very much for arranging this. It's you and your staff who have been just fabulous. And Holaday, where are you? There you are. Just a joy to read with you. Yeah. An honor and a joy. And David, words don't say what I want to say about David. And for that matter, about Anna. Really. I'm just thrilled that you're all here. I'm going to read actually all the poems from this book. Why not? And if you think it's okay, could you mind clapping at the end? You don't have to clap. But then not with each one, because there are a lot of little ones here, and I think there might be too many interruptions. You know how that goes. So my first poem is another new poem. I better not forget this. Another new poem, and it's after Charles Wright, which takes some chutzpah. But if you want to follow through on some of these at the end, the notes at the end will give you, for instance, Charles Wright's poem. Another new poem. It will meet evasive eyes. It will be variously orbited, placed. It will speak what is not spoken. It will expose shifting decoys. It will face the bleak unknown. It will console ourselves. It will heal hidden wounds. It will change fear to insight. It will birth another new poem. So this was interesting to me. I was lifted from the BBC shipping forecast, which I read someplace. Initially, it was called Facing South. It's called whatever I want to call it now, BBC. And it is very vaguely in the sense of it's a broken pantoum, kind of. I took the idea from Frank Bedard's book, Music Like, little chapbook, Music Like Dirt, where he used making in the same way that I use facing. So this is a very internal poem about me, I guess, and it's the BBC shipping forecast, Facing South.
Precarious, when my view south looks back at me. And as for place, say it, a part of me looks down and in, trying to avoid visibility. It's me, myself. And as for place, occasionally, I don't avoid visibility, facing south. On the other hand, sometimes north is more precise. I know how shame lies in and down, know how to avoid south-facing visibilities. Though north seems more precise, occasionally squalls, the gales, cyclones, shudders, in and down. I can't avoid the variable, sometimes poor visibility. Squalls, gales, that shudder again. Look down. Shame looks back at me, the self, and that precarious facing. Oh, this was interesting. I never wrote a triolet before, and you'll see that in the notes if you have my book, what a triolet is, but there's a repetition of rhyme and lines. And it was really fun. I did a bunch of them, and this is one. On conscience. Wrong. An early imprint on the self. Dark and weighty, sullen as a stone that ducks and reappears as something else, as if to change that imprint of oneself. Something else must break through dark to yes. Open doors, leave no and no alone. Instead, hear yes and yes imprint itself. No longer weighty, sullen as a stone. What was that I did when I was 4 or 5? I pulled out ringlets, strands of her red hair, those watery eyes, pale freckled skin. Besides, what did I know when I was 4 or 5? Playing house just in the yard outside. She took my doll, which wasn't fair. But what is fair when one is 4 or 5? So I pulled out some strands of her red hair. I really did this. There's more. I've stolen now and then. One time a peach, another time a word, an hour. Yes and no sit far apart, withheld, alive, in silent speech. Still, thieving can be sweet. Think ripened peach. Think open doors. The boundaries so oblique. One word, 1 hour, rescues me from no. So stealing now and then, a word, a peach, a slice of heart, yours, mine, may be right and wrong. So this is a nice short one. It's a poem about writing a poem. For the poets here, it's Ars Poetica. Untied. Scraps collected, saved and shaped to stanzas, or laid out with care on paper, like starched and ironed organza. Crushed, oh, those rumbled hours, torn and tossed away. Something might be there. And then, once when I was 3, I tried to tie my shoe, hurled it flying fury across the flowered wallpaper, making bruises of purple petaled flowers. Not so much later, I came to know the shoe's lace better. Its loop, the loop, its up, round, down. And then the lace and I became a bow. Let's see where we are. This is the Persephone myth, and it is set in contemporary times, places. The deal. No one pulls her. She goes willingly, enjoys the bruises on her upper arm under the dark blue shirt, reveres his mind, the smile, the tongue that reels off history, Plutarch's advice to married couples, Constantine's sword. The show of intellect turns her on. She'll promise anything when he talks mean or smart, scares her on the autostrada, swerving through a soggy stretch locals call the sticks. She lives with hell and likes it, his three-headed habits, dropping clothing everywhere, stacking dirty dishes with the clean. She won't reveal the third. Meanwhile, he comes and goes, no questions asked, which works for her, as long as she can take the ride. Oh, how she loves the ride from Vicenza, along the river, to see the villas of Palladio, as long as she can suck the sweet, tart juice of pomegranate seeds. This is in memory of two dear friends, Jan Wesley and Carrie Chasson, both of whom died in the last few months. Bird. A slice of sheep cheese with apple, you were saying, when the window shook. Or was it the whole wall, and on the ground a wren? Beak and needle talons in barest motion. Fooled by light, dazed, seeming air, seeming endless as sky. Who hasn't flown too fast and high? Song full in the belly, sun warm after a rain, the sweet taste dazzling. Sometimes it ends this way, a blind fracture after a moment of so much, so complete. That fullness under wild streaked feathers. Feel her. She's still warm. They are still warm, both of them. I miss them both. We all do. Circle. Julia is losing clumps of hair. She wears a wig out in the world, but at home or on long walks, the wig stays hidden on her vanity. Plunging into cool, deep shade, her gray-brown strands scatter under branches. Mulch thickens from years of leaves and rain. She settles into a drift of loss to contemplate chemotherapy. The air, a chorus of cicadas, birdsong, the winged zz of diving insects. Nothing is here. Everything is here. Spider silk and moss for landing, for nests, leaves for hatching swallowtail, butterflies, the occasional cloud that darkens. Two birds circle. She watches them disappear into a thicket with her thin strands in their bills, strands to line their nest, shape their home. And this is my last poem. This was a sonnet, a rhyming sonnet. And then I decided I didn't want it to be a rhyming sonnet. It's still a sonnet, but it isn't rhyming. Praise small things. Oh, this is maybe for Lynn. Praise small things. Red clay trade beads in a dreadlock braid. The scent of earth musk after rain. A cicada chorale shrieking in the sun. The summer's chalky grass. Oak black shade. Praise the sicky pollen on the bee's hind legs. The blossom's private parts. the fruit. Praise all vowels, masa and matate, smooth and avocado, quesadilla. Praise Nomo, backing first base on Beltree's throw. Cohen, reaching Ahmed. Ahmed reaching words both used to know, speaking. Praise the wild geese, rising slow, circling after rain, to taste the scent of air, of earth, this earth. That's it. Thank you. David, thank you. Holaday, thank you. Thank you all for coming. And go outside and have a little snack. Do that.